Right. Dear Jada. Today we're with Jada. I'm gonna introduce you to Jada today. This is gonna be our second video of the series of From Bali with Love. It happened to be, like this project just happened. When I was first here in Bali, I was like, there's so many interesting people here, and I'm like, yeah, people should know about these people and the community. I'm all about community. This is the reason why I came here. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this when I come back. And I came back and I started the project with no like intention, whatever. But I think it's good. I think there's gonna be an audience if people want to come to Bali, if they're curious about Ubudians, or who are these crazy people? What do they do? Why do they do the things they do? All that stuff. So before we begin, I know Jada from Five Rhythms. Five Rhythms is a modality I came across here actually through my really close friend Beril, who was a regular at Five Rhythms, and she was one day, you like ecstatic, why don't you try Five Rhythms? And I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll try anything once. And then I was hooked, to a point that I can't go to ecstatic any longer. I'm like, I love the structure of Five Rhythms. This is crazy. I love it. And the funny thing, actually, I don't know if I shared this with you before, but between that time and my second time in Bali, I actually went to ecstatic dance DJ training program in Turkey. And yes, um, even there, I'm like, when I'm looking at the flows and everything, yeah, Five Rhythms makes perfect sense. It wasn't necessarily Five Rhythms, but we talked about Five Rhythms and the flow of the Five Rhythms and everything. And actually, Beryl and I did an Instagram live talking about Five Rhythms only, because I'm always trying to share these things with people, the modalities I work with, how they work, why I like it, all that stuff. Anyway, so that's how I know Jada, and she was so nice to have me at her place and agreed to be here. And today we are gonna talk about her life, Five Rhythms, and Bali a little bit. Welcome, Jada. How are you?
Good, thank you. At least we have a beautiful morning
Yes.
and sunshine.
Yeah.
There's been a bit of rain recently in December. Usually we have more rain. So I think it's perfect for us to have this video.
Yes, we've been thinking about like, is it gonna rain? Are we gonna be able to do it? Which at some point, I think there should be some rainy videos in this channel too, because like it's part of Bali. This is From Bali with Love, and sometimes that love comes from the sky in the form of water. So first things first, Five Rhythms.
Yeah.
Let's start there. How did you meet with Five Rhythms? How did you get intoxicated?
Yeah, it was a journey that back in 2014, I would say I have a kind of like a catalyst, happened transformation in my life in 2008. And when I was very in the corporate world, I was still very heavily inside the corporate world, and really, working really hard and all that. But
What were you doing?
I was a broker.
Oh wow! I cannot imagine you as a
It
broker.
was a totally very male-dominated industry in a way, and with all the shouting, screaming, and fastidious trades happening all at the same time. Really, literally, those days of my life were like very staccato, very chaos. Everything has to be, fast, and also orderly, organized, action,
Sharp.
chaos. And actually from there, I actually learned to be have as what you call the eye of the storm here. Because imagine you're in a big dance where everybody's shouting, really chasing for the same traits. And I have to be so aware of what's happening and to know that somebody is chasing for the same offer or big price. And I have to know who to look for. So that card really gave me a very big perspective of like how to be the eye of a storm in the midst of the chaos. Yeah, so in those days I was so much in, of course, my head space, getting things done, organizing, and into make money. But then there was a big change in my life that I took a whole year off from work, went to India, like a quest for the soul to find out who I was becoming, that I really detest, didn't like it, because I was really like pushy and aggressive, and because in that industry you have to be that. If you're soft, you can't do any trades. So I became that person that I didn't like anymore. So I was going through a lot of emotional stress, physical stress, mental stress, and spiritual stress, of course. And then I went to search for myself in 1 year, and that I actually quit my job. Little did I know I was doing a hero's journey to jump into the unknown. I really want to push myself into the fire to know who am I, right? And from there, from 2008 to rightly, it takes a number of years to let go of that layers and let go of like, okay, this part, how can I let go of this part? And that's just peeling off. It took a number of years where suddenly I realized, it's funny thing also, I have a good friend who lives, she was actually living in Pune, the offshore's, ashram, or we call it the resort place. I visited her in early 2000, and I went there. I was not prepared in my spiritual path in that moment. I was like, "Oh, what is this? This is like how to something like it's too woo." But then I found myself, and I did all the aesthetic. I would say dance, to dynamic meditation, to all that stuff that we did. The 1 week I was there in the resort place. But it was only after I had this kind of like a catalyst in my life that I was soul searching for myself, that I went back to do the offshore meditation again. So it was through offshore meditations, a retreat, that I found like, oh my God, I forgot this part of me who loved to dance. So, and during those years of letting go, I started to search for dance. And I wanted to try a few other modalities of what can I express myself. I was also a very avid yogi. I do a lot of yoga, but it's very grounding for myself, for my soul. But there's this big part of me I want to express myself. There's something that I want to, that expansion. So, and I started to go into dance, and while in holiday in Amsterdam in 2014, there was aesthetic dance and there was five rhythm dance, and I was like, oh, what is this five rhythms? I want to try. So I went, and little did I know, the whole wave of the journey, it was like, it peeled off so much of the layers of my emotions, and I was like crying. Little did I know what was this five rhythms all about, like the structure of this five rhythm. But it's like I went through a whole journey, and so beautiful. And I came back to Singapore and just thinking, I really need to have this modality in my life. I was looking for it. At that time, there was a teacher in Singapore, but then she left to London. And there was no other teacher, and I was thinking of like, the nearest place for me to go is to Australia, because Australia there's a community, a tribe there who does five rhythms, and I thought, maybe I'll have to travel to Australia. And then again, I came back to Bali. We did a Osho meditation retreat, and I found out there was a teacher who was living here at the time in 2015. And I contacted him and said, hey, how long are you going to stay in Bali? Because at the time, my mind were already crafting a journey of letting go of like, I'm done with the corporate. Right. I'm going to go to Bali and live in Bali. I'm going to dance all my desires and stuff like that, my expressions. And then he said, I do come to Singapore quite often. If you're really, really keen, why don't you find somebody or a group of friends, you can host me, we can have class together. Then I said, yeah, that's a good idea. So I started the journey from there. We did it once a month, every month, for him to come over to Singapore to do a visa run, as well as sometimes to do classes for us. The first class, I got all my friends. There were, I think, about 15 of us. And then the journey just continued from there to I became a space holder for Fire Rhythms in Singapore. And then that was at the time where I said enough to my corporate job. So I came to Bali. And 2016, I was like in my garden, I was thinking to myself, okay, what do I do now? You know, from a very intense corporate life to suddenly I'm sitting in the garden like, oh, this old stillness I'm not used to. You know, like I'm used to the chaos, to run, do. And suddenly I almost felt like I was coming off from a very high to a very low state of mind. And like, oh, something I need to do. And I thought, oh, 2016, 2017, they're having a new teachers batch of teachers training for algorithms. And I said, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
The fire is burning inside me. And all at the time, I only had one prerequisites. Because, you know, to do the algorithms training, you have to have so many requisites, 300 hours of dancing the waves, and different maps to go into. And certain maps, there are only like 2 teachers teaching it. You have to really chase the schedule, like in the US or Europe. And you have to really be so determined and so dedicated to put your energy, your money, and traveling around, you know, just to go for the bookshop. So I did it. Within 3 years, I fulfilled my certification.
Wow.
So I have been teaching since late 2018 because that's where I got certified. And then 2019, then 2020, pandemic hits. And we didn't have classes until then we tried in 2021.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. What a journey.
Wow, yeah. What a journey.
You said, well, before that, what does it mean to hold space?
Being a space holder?
Yeah, being a space holder.
Okay, you know, because in those days, fire rhythms, especially in Asia, there are not many teachers. Like I said, if you want to find this dance, you can only go to Australia or Europe or US. There's not many Southeast Asia or Asia teachers at all. So they came out with this thing called the Space Holder Program, where you go for a 1-week orientation of 7 days to get a little bit of a training about what are the fire rhythms and to really understand the structure of the fire rhythms. And what we did was we could hold space, but we not necessarily to teach it because we are not a teacher at the time. We could hold the space, create a whole playlist with a mentor. At the time, we have a mentor to say, okay, these are the playlists that we want to hold the space for people. So people just come and dance with the structure of the fire rhythms wave. Not necessary for us to teach it, but we're just holding a space for them to dance through this wave. And of course, from that, you know, it has been a great, for me personally, I feel it was a very good training ground. You know, especially for new teachers where all they learn is, you know, haven't really found a place. You know, it takes so much effort, also logistics to find a studio, a suitable studio, and then started to create a community, a tribe for regular dancers. Also to be confident enough to, you know, play with logistics of the computer and playing the way, all this stuff. So it has given me an added advantage to become a teacher in that sense of holding that space in that, you know, the structure of that whole thing. Not necessarily as a teacher yet, but still holding space in that way.
Yeah. And what do you like the most about the whole ritual, I'm gonna say it, like the arrival and the instructions and the whole wave and then the closing circle?
Yeah, now becoming a teacher, I mean, and each wave is very different. Each dance is always different. Somehow for me, I will take some time before, it would be like a week before that I will want to create a whole, like, I want to be a perfectionist, to have a good curated playlist. because you're like, oh, you want to do this, do that. But somehow now these days, it's like, I feel like it's more coming from a space where, from myself, like
Mm.
what I'm going through in this moment. So from here, I'm creating a playlist for what I'm going through.
Mhm.
Hopefully, the dancers can resonate with that, very like a curated playlist that is coming from what I'm experiencing. So from there, I can actually offer and share it with the dancers instead of just making a playlist.
So how much of the playlist you prepare beforehand, or when do you prepare the playlist?
Like a week before, I would just generally just put in some music, but 2 days before, I will actually kind of like sit down and say, okay, what am I actually going through now? Or what is there a theme I want to put in this team? Like what emotions or what landscape or what place we are in now? That because when I'm gonna step into the space, I want to know that I'm actually offering from this space of my being, so people can have a sense of like, oh, wow.
So it's like you're taking them on a journey of a personal experience, and through that, you find some connectedness. Yeah, I love that. In a way, it's very, now that I'm listening to you, it's very astrological, because like I care about the moon placement of the day. Whenever I'm doing anything, any modality, anything I attend, I'm like, okay, today moon is in, this sign. I wonder if there's gonna be something like that, and there's always something like that, because it's the collective energy of the moment, and it's beautiful. And one thing about that too, and how much of the playlist is flexible during the dance?
Right. So usually I will put in an extra chaos or not, because in case the energy is so strong and they need one more, so I have one or two extra chaos if I need to with it. If not,
emergency chaos. In case of emergency. Because this is funny, because like it's only the chaos, people are like, I need one more chaos. Like the chaos was a little bit too short, or like I needed one more. That's the only thing. Okay, out of the 5 waves, which one is your favorite?
Five rhythms, you mean?
Yeah, 5 rhythms, yeah.
Oh, every day is changing,
Oh, okay.
Every day is changing. Like I said, sometimes, and I just feel that this is the beauty of the five rhythm, because you can't say that today I love more chaos, but because you know that the day is always changing, the dance is always changing, we are always changing,
Right.
And then I mean, like a few days ago, we started on stillness.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming out from stillness, right? And in stillness, there are actually all the rhythms in there.
Yeah. That actually got stuck with me. You said that, and I was like, "Wow, this is profound." Like, can you repeat that again for the viewers?
In the rhythm of stillness, there are all the stillness and all the rhythms in
All the
stillness.
rhythms, all the words, all the songs are in stillness. Like in the silence, I was thinking like, when it's silent, you can hear all the songs that you've ever listened to.
Yeah.
That's so huge. That's profound. Okay, interesting.
And then usually for me, sometimes it's also when you play a piece of really long, beautiful stillness, and sometimes there are different tune and instruments, and you can also attune yourself into in what state are you feeling, because sometimes I'm still in chaos, I can still feel myself spinning out in stillness, in the chaos, like wow, and it's like in such a profound way of letting go, that the energy is so strong. It's not like completely still. Of course, you can be completely still as well, but depending on the state of you, like you are feeling yourself, you're still going on.
We usually do that like at 5 rhythms. You tend to ask people if other people have been to 5 rhythms before, and just I'm curious for the audience too, like for people who don't know 5 rhythms at all. How do you describe it?
Okay, just to say that Five rhythms is, we usually say, it's a moving meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a form of dance, but it's not just a
Mm-hmm.
dance. In a way that you are finding different movement
Mm-hmm.
that you can express as a dance, but also can be just a simple movement,
Yeah.
right? It just moves from one movement to the other movement. So, like sitting or walking or stretching, everything can be done in a very mindful, moving meditation.
Mm.
So in five rhythms, we go through this whole different five rhythms to up to a wave to come down.
Mm-hmm.
Why we do that is because we know that, I mean, Gal Gabarov, the founder, she's so, I mean, I've never met her in this life. We've read her, and when I read her book, I was like, oh my God, this woman, she knew it in her bones.
Mm.
Like, we go through these waves every day in our life, every day,
Mm.
from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So these tiny, tiny waves in our life, and all these have all these rhythms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the moment you wake up, you tune into, okay, what's my flow today? What am I feeling today? What do I want to do today? My inner landscape of my feeling, like, oh, I'm feeling like, oh, yeah, I'm feeling good, So where is this flow taking me into the next staccato action? So it cannot be just completely, oh yeah, today I'm feeling so flowy.
Mm.
But it cannot be, because you need action to go out to do something. Be in a flow of doing something. So you need to go out and, okay, I need to take my motorbike to go to the streets, for example. I need to go to the restaurant. I need to bring a friend. Is being out or staccato. Then you go into the streets, you go into all these traffics, getting yourself into chaos. Like, oh no, what is this person coming into this street and the traffic? I'm late and blah, blah, blah. You go through all that stress as well, messiness. And then once you get out of the traffic, and then you're almost reaching to meet your friend, you're in a state of lyrical, like, whew, my likeness. I'm there. I'm meeting my friend, my happiness, joy. And then when you sit down with your friend, then you have some sort of a connection, the stillness fall into that of the heart-to-heart connection and talk. And, anything can be from there to integrate. So we all go through this little bit of a journey. So on the same thing in the dance, on the dance floor, how do I move from this inner to the outer and to let it go and break up into this deep disconstruction of chaos, and then to find the lightness of my being in the lyrical and sense, and slowly coming down to stillness.
Yeah.
So we go through a journey, like really finding out where am I today in my body, in all my states, my mental, my physical, my emotional, my spiritual states, and everything is changing all the time. So that itself is a moving meditation, a movement in itself.
You also said you had some experience with Osho's dynamic meditation. What would you say the similarities or differences? I mean, there are a lot of differences, but maybe similarities more so.
Yeah, I think if I still remember correctly, because it's been a while I've been doing. They also go through a stage of, like, the first one you get into the breathing, and then you expand into I think you're doing the chaos, letting go. Then you're doing the who, and then coming down to the weakness. And then the last part is the free flow dance. And to me, I find that's also a journey in a way.
Yeah.
And really working with the internal, because what we want to work is to work with the internal, not out there, but here.
These are my personal questions too, but like, it's my show. Whatever, I can ask whatever I want. How concerned are you with people liking the songs or the playlist? Slash, or maybe after that, um, how do you keep yourself in that state of being a, still concentrated while people are going through so many things. Slash, sometimes people give up, sometimes they sit down, sometimes they lose interest
Yeah.
or get distracted. Like, how do you ground yourself? Because it's such a moving thing.
Yeah.
It's a very chaotic thing at times. It's very changing. So many people involved.
Yeah, I know I get myself disappointed if somebody walk off, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's also a part of us being a facilitator to really have to trust ourselves in a way
Mm,
that you can't satisfy everybody with it. So many genres of music,
mm,
so many thousands and millions of songs that you can pick on, and this person say, "Oh my God, this is my favorite," or "This I hate this song."
yeah.
So we cannot please everybody. But what we can do is really hope to try to let them go through what is necessary in
Mm,
that moment.
mm,
We don't push them because sometimes resistance is also there. And
right.
how can you move the resistance?
Yeah,
How can you move the boredom?
yeah,
How can you move it? I don't belong here.
yeah,
So that's the most important because these are here to teach us to move
yeah,
through.
yeah.
And you can't say that, oh, you're not moving, you have to move. But then sometimes people are literally lying down, but inside there's so much movement.
Mm-hmm,
And we have to
mm-hmm,
also give permission
mm.
to allow that natural process to move by itself. And
That's very interesting because that's something I learned from you guys, you and Sophie. Because when I go to an event or Five Rhythms, I'm like, okay, yeah, I paid money. I'm gonna dance the whole time, like I'm gonna get my money's worth. But then, like, I sometimes see you just like pure chaos. Everyone is screaming, and you're just sitting there because, like, that's what you need. Perhaps that's how you wanna be in that moment. And I'm like, wow, this is so good. This is so admirable. I didn't know that was an option, like, and like you said, that chaos inside. And for the first time, last time, was it this week? This week, yeah. I just went to the back and I sat down because I was like, I can't get into the dance. I'm too much in my head. I just want to like be and maybe watch people. And while I was watching people, I got so many downloads. At some point, I was like, okay, these people are crazy. We're all mad. Like, this is madness. And then I closed my eyes, I did a little meditation, and I opened my eyes, and there was this profound feeling of like appreciating that very moment, being there. I was like, oh my God, I am in Bali. Suddenly I was like, I'm in Bali. People are dancing. I don't know these people. Like, I was like right in that moment, even though I wasn't on the dance floor necessarily inside of the procedure, whatever, it was crazy just to watch people too.
yeah, I mean, sometimes you draw inspiration
Yeah.
from just watching people. Wow.
Yeah, it's so nice. It's so nice. Like seeing people. Sometimes, like after the dance, I go up to some people. It's like it was so nice having you there. Like just watching you doing your own thing, smiling. Sometimes there are some people like they smile the whole time and they're dancing, and I'm like, oh my God, like it's so nice. Just a glance, like you're not watching people. You're doing your own thing, but sometimes you make eye contact and like it's so profound. Um. Okay. How about community?
Community.
People who come there, they keep changing. There are some people who are there almost every week, the regulars. And then there are people who come to Bali and go and they want to try something new or they know five rhythms. Like,
Yeah.
how does it relate what you do to community? Um, and what do people mean to you in this process? Like, because I figure like there are people coming and going after a while, you can disassociate, like,
Well,
yeah.
initially from 2021, we started And it was like, being after pandemic or still going through finishing pandemic, we were like five, sometimes 10.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh my God, it feels quite discouraging and also quite an effort to put on every week to have, you know, so few interests, But then we keep hanging on there. And also sometimes, it's very transient. People come and go because this is Bali. It's not really it's a tourist
Yeah.
island. People come and go. But also at the same time, throughout the years, we have seen a lot of Ubudins, expatriates, or people like me, we lived here,
Yeah.
right? And but then also there's so many dance modalities they can go to it. Every time when I see the WhatsApp, like, oh my God, this dance, this dance, this dance, this dance, so many dances. And to a point where sometimes I get frustrated, like, why? It's such a powerful and profound medicine. How can we reach out to a bigger audience? And then sometimes I beat myself to it. And me and Sophie were like, oh yeah. But then after a while, we realize is to really keep the practice, and not to make it like, oh, it's tribalism. So it really is about the practice where what do you need? What this person needs. And I find it in a way that as long as we come from this very authentic self, we're not trying to sell something that's like, but it is a true medicine for the soul. I mean, if anybody who came and said, oh my God, this is like so good. But we even have like people commented like, wow, this is even better than aesthetic dance. But then one dance and then you don't see them anymore. It's okay. It's fine. Like I said, it's for people who really, really put it into a practice. A practice is a practice. Not that one dance and this is good, I'm finished. So for me, it's just like a practice for daily rituals. Every day you do some rituals. It's a practice. So if this resonates to the people who really think this is a ritual and really wants to know more about themselves, then they know it's always changing. It's not just the outside world or the inside. And then they'll come. And then we don't have to push. Of course we want to advertise and put it out more to people like, hey, this is a very rich modality.
It's definitely, I mean, for me at this point, it has nothing to do with ecstatic dance. Ecstatic dance is, I don't know, to me like clubbing now. Like it's just something I do for fun, and five rhythms is something I don't do for fun necessarily because you never know what's gonna come up. I've cried so many times. I screamed so much I hurt my voice. I lost my voice. Um, I definitely see the medicine, and definitely see it as as a practice. Like you said, it's a practice. Like you need to show up. Sometimes I have to push myself to go there. I see the resistance too. I'm like, no, you're gonna feel better afterwards. And sometimes I come there, I talk to you. I don't know if you like it or not. That's something I need to talk to you about too. Like, I'm like, today I'm working with this emotion, like, because I go there with like very defined, specific intention. And I say, like, I need chaos right now in my life. That chaos is one of those, like, I usually go there for the chaos. And what comes after chaos is amazing because that lightness is just like, wow, okay, this is where I want to be all the time. Like if I could see that, or if I could mm, let that chaos happen in my life naturally, more naturally, then I could be in that flow state. But we all have resistance to that. Like you're always like, yeah, I don't want to throw a tantrum right now. I don't want to be mad at someone. I don't want to yell, like, but it is there. We all have that. And that chaos is just like, almost like I go once a week. Once a week is enough for me. Even though they say like you can never dance enough. I'm like, you know what? This is enough for me.
Yeah.
But I see myself building up to that chaos. I'm like, okay, let's dump it on the dance floor and just get rid of this, and let's get out of here in a more light way.
Yeah.
Um, this must have changed things in your life too. Like, what was from a personal perspective, from your own journey, your healing journey. What's the role of other modalities? Do you work with other stuff? You said you do yoga, you practice.
Yeah.
But also, in comparison to other things, what's the purpose of five rhythms for you at the moment in your life? Is it still healing, or is it something just a profession for you? Something you do?
Oh no, it's still a healing modality for me. Even if I'm not in a dance floor, I view my daily life with all these five rhythms
Mm-hmm.
in it.
Mm.
It's really funny. I mean, right now, as you know, that I'm kind of stuck in Bali because I couldn't get out my
Mm-hmm.
passport, and somehow I found myself really coming into that part of stillness to find. I know in the stillness, this part I'm trying to let go of a lot of chaos that's happening. And I mean, the recent 1 week has been quite also a lot of felt sense, like some intuitively, like sometimes I'm going to, like for example, I'm going to this big tree
Mm.
just last week intuitively. Somehow, I don't know why, I just been brought to there.
Mm.
And it's like as if this tree is telling me to be still.
Mm.
Things are changing or things are going out the flow. It's not towards the flow. Be still. Find the lesson in the stillness. So that's why I've been like, oh, but there's so much emotion was going inside me. But how can I be still if I don't let that out? So that's why the last Tuesdays, my offering was because I felt that in me, that I'm in the stillness of it all, that is this part that you want to, ah! So before you can come back to this self and pull back into this stillness, sometimes these emotions need to release, then you can come back into that stillness.
So you see everything in life as a rhythm,
Yeah,
as one of the rhythms,
yeah.
one of the five
Seasons
rhythms. Yeah.
change. But now, I mean, in Bali, we don't have 4 seasons, but you can see that the rain has started more
Yeah.
in this December period. But there's a sense of like, oh, closing in, like
Yeah.
a winter.
Bali.
Yeah.
What does Bali mean to you? Do you need to be in Bali to do this? What are the advantages of doing this in Bali, or maybe disadvantages? Could you do this if you weren't in Bali?
Well, I can do it in Singapore for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but because when I decided to quit my corporate life in Singapore, I wanted to have an alternative lifestyle to be more immersed with myself in the nature and to come to a more simplified lifestyle. Bali is very close to my heart in a way that because when I was young, I grew up in a kampong. Kampong means in a Malay language, it's called a village. Village like in Bali we'll say, what's the word for Bali village?
Kuning? No.
Not sure if it's Kuning. But anyway,
Okay.
like kampong, yeah.
Yeah.
Kampong. I was brought up in kampong in those. I think it must have been the last part of Singapore that was still a very village lives, and before it become the high scrappers or like a city now, right? So I really, from those years as a childhood, I remember, nature was my playground. I would just go into nature or just jump into every pond and everything, and all this, and very rustic. So when I come to Bali, I really reminds me of my childhood. All this nature, beautiful, like Bali is such a big island. You can go to up to the north to the mountain or the hills and go down to the south to the beach. Everywhere. And then, in Bali, I haven't gone through the whole island. It's so much gems to discover. Ubud is just one part of it, and and then people are beautiful, lovely, and then the classes here, in Ubud itself, we have dances like in Canggu, Uluwatu, but somehow Ubud seems to be like the hub of all the holistic things happening. I find myself uh, easily adaptable here. It's like almost like my home country, and it's like 2.5 hours from Singapore. So I find myself based here is such a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, being an Ubudian, how does it feel to be one of the Ubudians? To outsiders, to tourists, you're the crazy cool lady who does 5 rhythms.
It's funny when I just came here in 2016, I felt like, wow, so much things to experience. I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. After living here for almost 8 years now, I become more reclusive. I don't know, like, I, I feel like I'm becoming more like a tree. I mean, like more at home. I prefer to be at home. If I go to classes, I go to class, and events, need to meet my friends, I go. But I'm very happy to be at home. And sometimes, actually, I take for granted, like, oh, I'm in the nature, right? And people, friends will come by and then they want to go to this place. It's also such a refreshing experience because through the eyes, I'm like, wow, I got to experience all over again Bali. And I'm like, wow, yeah. I get to do the tourist thing, like, to go out with them. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in Bali. Sometimes you tend to forget you're in Bali.
That's a crazy thing. I used to have that in Istanbul all the time.
Yeah.
Whenever the tourists came, like I showed them around, and I'm like, I'm seeing Istanbul from a new perspective, from their perspective. It's crazy, and from their perspective, yeah, this is an amazing city. It's a big city, whatever, whatever. But living there, I'm like, oh, I don't like Istanbul. Like, um, and I want to ask you a little bit more about the community feeling.
Right.
Like, do you feel like there is a community here in Bali or Ubud, or what does it mean to have a community for
Yeah,
you?
definitely. I think there are many different pockets of community. I mean, I do have besides Farindham's community, I have a group of close friends as community as well. So I think again, I feel that with changes, with the coming and going, unless you have a fixed group of people who has been living here for a long time, then that's your core group of community. I have that core group community, and I have the Five Rhythms community, and I also have those very coming and going community people. So I still feel that this is also a very community based island. Look at the village. When they have a big ceremony, everybody come together, do their part in contributing in the community, very community based. So I think it's up to us to find a community. If you want to be in a
Yeah. And what do you think about Balinese people, the Balinese community here? Are you involved? Are you observing them, or are you part of their community? Do you feel like you're part of their community?
I always feel a bit ashamed about because I've been living here for 8 years. Only during pandemic, okay, we have all the time we have in the world. So I took up the Bahasa lessons during that time, and then after that we stopped, and I stopped using the Bahasa. And till now, I could converse in very simple Bahasa.
Wow.
But I wish I have really go more in depth and really try to speak to them in their language. Balinese people are so beautiful, and what I really like about them is to still upkeep their rituals, their traditions, and the nappy, the kuningan, goningan, and it's just so beautiful. I mean, the only way upsetting thing is to see how it has changes through it all, with all the rice fields given up to, for the sake of building more the demands of villas. I mean, yeah, it's just the ecosystem is going through this whole thing, in this natural flow. So yeah, that's only one thing that I feel a bit disheartening in certain ways. But I can also understand, the older generation, when they have all this rice field, it's very hard work, hard labor to do this, and the money is not as much as, let's say, you demolish everything and put in a villa, you make more money. So I can understand it's very easy for them. Oh yeah, for the next generation, this is a piece of land I'll give my offspring, my whatever. So that's the only thing that I feel a bit sad.
So, what advice would you give to people who want to come to Bali or who want to move here, or other Jadas out there who are in the corporate world, stuck, not happy, living an unhealthy life? What would you advise? Like, how would you advise them to get out of the system?
Yeah, I think, in the first place, you will need to have a bit of resources. So really, you will have a bit of a planning, because while you're in it, you got to think about, in the next few years, where you're going to go. If really, you'll know at this point where you are quite done with it, you're dissatisfied. But also, you have to do a bit of planning, like, okay, do I have this amount for a buffer? Because you can't just quit and then you come to a place like this and then you're living like, I'm still, going nowhere, then it's pointless,
Yeah.
right? I feel that those people who are still in the system and feel that they want to get out of it, to have like at least 1 or 2 years that buffer of, okay, I'm gonna set my mind 1 or 2 years, I'm gonna make all the money in whatever I'm doing now, because that will already have a stability of what I'm doing, because they get bored of it. They want to get out of it. But one, they have the stability to make a 1 year plan. Save as much as you can for the 1 year and to have decide this is it,
Yeah.
go. At least you have the 1 year plan of the buffer of resources, or to have that choice, and not quitting because you're tired, you're sick of it, and then you're quitting and you go to a certain place. Yeah, it could make you happier for 3 months,
Yeah.
6 months, but then down the road,
Not going to be sustainable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or at the same time, you're working in this current job to find your interest, to pursue the other interest, go further, study or do much more, and then from there you slowly, transfer yourself into that different area, different realms of that, what do you call that, interest.
Right. Oh, I had this question I forgot to ask before. What's the craziest thing that happened to you on the dance floor while you're holding space?
Oh,
Is there any anecdote?
yeah. Yeah, there was once when I was doing a private retreat. There was a few women, and I wouldn't say this is crazy, but I would say that this is one lesson for me to learn, because as a facilitator, we need to go through some CPR exercise to learn how to do all that, and just in case anybody go through some kind of emergency, right?
Yeah.
So one lady, she was going through some kind of maybe trauma. So she was kind of stuck in her emotional space, like something is trying to move, but because throughout the years of not, stressing and not moving, something is stuck. And literally, she was closing her eyes, her hands was like so still, and I thought she was gonna have a heart attack. I was so sad. I was like, oh my god, what's happening? And there was just in the very beginning of the wave, like flowing. She
Wow.
went right into it, and her eyes was closing, and then for a moment she was just like, I said, what's happening? So I didn't speak Bahasa, so she speak Indonesian. So I asked my friend, so yeah, so she said she's having a headache, she cannot breathe. I said, okay, just lie down, and just because I see that the clench in the face was really tight. Something is stuck there, really, really tight. So I needed her to open her eyes to get her back into the space and not into whatever stuckness or stories that is holding her. So immediately because I did a bit of a trauma release, so I said, do you know TRE? Once she heard this word, yes, I know TRE, and I got her in the position. She went to that, and she this thing, this expression was trying to come out.
Wow.
So it moved through, and then she was able to release the hands, and then the body relaxes a little bit, and then she could come out and do a bit dance. But she still had a little bit of headache, but it was so much of this energy was trying to come out,
Really?
So that was a bit of a moment for me, like, but it taught me to so much from that, So I said, wow, you're my teacher,
Yeah, anything is expected. Like dance floor is a crazy place. If you go to five rhythms, crazy things happen. Um, and before we end this session, closing circle. What does it mean to have the closing circle? Why is it important? Do you have to have it? Um, how do you feel about it in general?
Funny thing you asked it, because sometimes when I go to other events, like for example, a static dance or some kind of other modality, it depends, yeah. I myself find myself heading out
Right.
right? And then I thanks to think about that, like, wow, you know what? People are doing that to me, and I'm doing that to other people. But then it comes to my attention is that I feel like because the other modalities I feel that are much outwards and not so inward. So I can just come and go as a it's okay. People are like not watching you or feeling that you're in a container together. It's like very free in a sense. But for five rhythms, we like to have a closing circle is because it's a very it's a very closed container. In a way that in itself, when we come to this dance, in itself, you're already um, going inside of this of yourself. And with other dancers together, we all are going in the inner journey. So without knowingly that we are creating this self container inside already. So when everybody going through this whole wave, like if one person just live in the middle of chaos, something is oof, like the energy just took up from there, right? So for everybody to go through the whole journey, the whole wave, and come to stillness, I feel that is necessary for us to come to the closed container to say that, hey, thank you for holding space, not just for me, for each other. Whether or not we are saying something, we want to say something, it was just a very brief, it can be a 5 minutes close to say that thank you, like to each everybody in this closed container that we went through this journey. And then, okay, if I don't want to say anything, I'm not in the, some people might I don't like to say anything, but you can simply just be quiet. Just by that itself, just to have a nice, close container, and then you just slowly move up. That for me is
Yeah. So, what's next?
What's next?
What are the plans for future,
Oh
for your
wow.
personal
Well,
journey, for Five Rhythms, for Bali?
one thing I haven't really said is, feminism's what we're doing here is just on the very fundamental and the foundation of the feminisms we call waves.
Mm-hmm.
But there are many other maps, like next after waves is heartbeat, we do emotion. The next one is cycle, we go through all our family constellation.
Mm.
And mirrors is about how we relate to each other, to
Mm.
dance. And then to God, sex, and body, different archetypes of the human and the divine archetypes. So all these maps are so interesting. So if
Mm.
one dancer who dive deep enough, they want to learn more about this, we have year-end retreat, which is coming up. And also next year, we have this God, sex, and body.
God, sex, and body.
Super excited to bring into Bali. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a fun. It's almost like putting your archetype into that costume and express itself, has a voice to dress it up.
So the waves are different. The rhythms are different.
No, see, all these maps, different maps, are still using the very foundation of the waves.
Okay.
You will always dance through a wave.
Okay.
That's why from wave, it's very important. You have to dance the wave, the full wave all the time, wave, 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 wave.
Right.
Until you go into the next other map.
I see. Wow.
So always start with and end with a wave.
Mm-hmm. This is something I didn't know either. Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. And for you personally, what's next in life? Are there any goals, plans, projects other than this?
Well, I've been always trying to tell myself every year find something new to do. Right? Next year, I'm actually thinking of going to India.
Oh.
Usually, I take a month off beginning of the year, like January. I want to go into silence and quiet and not being too much involved in the outside world. And I'm thinking of going to India in February to do that. Allow myself to just drop into the unknown for a little while, for that 1 month to see where it brings me, where it flows, where it's, to have that unplanned.
That's cool.
Take myself out of the usual, the mundane. Such a
But life for you in Bali is good, and you want to continue living here.
I have my 2 cats. I love my cats a lot, and then and continue to